With all the announcements of very impressive new cameras over the last few months, you could be forgiven to think that the FX3 is no longer a great choice when it comes to a cinema camera. However, in this video, I'm going to give you 5 reasons why I still think the FX3 is just about the best cinema camera you can buy. There's been a lot of talk about the new Panasonic S1 Mark II and how it could be a FX3 killer. And there's very strong arguments for why that is the case. Without doubt, it's got some really cool new features and it comes in at a very competitive price. However, despite that, I still think there are some strong arguments why you should stick to a Sony camera or you should invest in the FX3 instead of the S1 Mark II. For me, the number one reason why you should go with the FX3 is because it is an industry standard and part of an industry standard setup that Sony have really developed over many years. If you want to collaborate with anyone, or if you want to work with an agency or a news outlet, the chances are they are looking for you to use a Sony camera. It's much easier as a freelancer to get work if you own a Sony camera than pretty much any other brand out there. That's just the reality of the case. It's not necessarily because they are better or offer something the other cameras can't do. It's just that the industry has set itself on one particular brand to make life easier for themselves. They don't want to have to switch between different formats and learn all the different codecs and the different log profiles and try and match up different cameras when working on a shoot or on different shoots that they may call you in for. What they want to be able to do is know exactly what to expect from the footage that you're providing them. And that is really critical if you're working in the freelance world. Say, for example, you want to come and work with us. It's much easier for us if you're using a Sony FX3 than if you suddenly turn up using a Nikon. Speaking of having an industry standard, if you're looking to have an upgrade path, well, Sony are really the only ones that offer everything from the very beginner cameras that you may pick up when you start shooting all the way through to cinema cameras like the Venice that are being used on big Hollywood movies. Having that upgrade path and that ability to move your lenses, your equipment, and just your knowledge of a system as you grow as a filmmaker actually is a really critical part of how you invest in your camera gear. It means you can really hone in and understand the system, understand the strengths and the weaknesses that that camera and that camera system has. You can build up your lens collection, and it just helps when you move on to the next stage. You already have a B camera, say if you went from an FX3 up to an FX6, and it just makes life a lot easier with that growth that you have. Sadly, that's not the case when it comes to the likes of the Panasonic cameras. Yes, they have amazing cameras at the low and mid range like the S5 II, which I've just done a video about, and how actually I do think it's a great first option for pros if they can look past some of the compromises. And of course now they have this new S1 Mark II, which is an incredibly powerful camera, but they still lack a full-size cinema camera, so there's no upgrade path beyond that camera right now. Maybe they will bring one out in the future and really fill out that whole lineup, but for now, Sony really are the best option when it comes to this. The only other brand really I can think of that are doing a full range of cameras at all different price points is Blackmagic. They're doing some incredible things right now with all their camera setups, and the integration that they do is second to none. Whether it's through the software or the different pieces of hardware, Blackmagic really are, I think, leading that way. That said, they're not an industry standard like Sony are. And if you were taking a risk of going for one camera system over another, knowing that you needed to work with other people, well, I think the Sony would be the option. Now, all this talk about how great these other cameras are, it's easy to forget that the Sony FX3 still produces amazing results. And it's very easy to get hung up on, oh, look how much better the extra stopper dynamic range of that camera is, or look how the extra detail that the higher resolution sensor can produce. And as pixel peeping filmmakers, we see all of that. We get excited over all those little things. But the reality is the vast majority of people watching at home, watching your content, actually consuming what you produce, don't care at all. The FX3 can produce amazing results, more than good enough for the deliverables that you will be providing. Once again, it's the reason why it has become such an industry standard. It can just be trusted upon to produce good enough results time and time again. Yes, you don't have control over things like the noise reduction and the sharpness, but I've never had anyone complain about the image quality that the FX3 can produce. It produces brilliant results all the time. The actual file you can really push around a lot. Often I've lifted up the shadows in areas and the image still looked really good because the actual dynamic range within the file is absolutely amazing and really is more than enough for any shoot that I do. Speaking of more than enough, this is a camera that has no compromises. And what I mean by that is, although yes, you might not have the latest and greatest features, everything it does it pretty much perfectly. The autofocus works without any problems. Even when you're shooting at 4K 120, the autofocus works exactly the same as it does in 25p. That can't be said with all other camera brands. Often there is a bit of a compromise. If you want to shoot at that higher frame rate, there's going to be a crop, or you're not going to be able to use the autofocus mode, or perhaps there's picture profiles not available on that particular camera or system. There's always these little compromises that you seem to have to deal with other manufacturers. And to be fair to Sony, and especially the FX3, that doesn't seem to be the case. It's the one camera that I feel really doesn't compromise in any situation, just gives it everything to you and then you can figure out how you want to use it. Finally, it's just easy to use. Yes, the menus could be improved massively, but despite that, as a camera system, it's just easy to pick up and start shooting with. I love how small it is. You can just chuck it on a gimbal. You can easily build it up and rig it into a larger setup if you need. When you're shooting handheld, it's a fairly nice camera to use. The touch autofocus is just very intuitive. Even the battery life is more than good enough, even if you're just using a very stripped down setup. All these things really combine together to make it to a camera that is just stress-free. You pick up and it works. And often that's all that really matters. Yes, it may not include some of the new features like open gate that would be excellent to see on all camera systems. But often what's more important is a camera that doesn't get in the way of you being creative. And that is where the FX3 really shines. If you've enjoyed this video, then please make sure you like and subscribe, as it massively helps out my channel. And while you're here, why not check out my last video where I talked about the Panasonic S5 II and how it could be a great first pro camera for a lot of people. That might sound like contradictory to what I'm just talking about in this one. Go and check out that video and feel free to leave a comment on it.